excited to have you here, Pam.
Thanks for having me, Mel. Thanks for having me, Suzanne.
Absolutely. So I think we're good to go on all channels. We're live,
yes.
Suzanne?
Yes,
Excellent.
live, everything is press record.
Perfect. Well, this is officially the start of week 2 of our TLS Tone Up Challenge. So if you made it through the first week, give yourself a big pat on the back. Say you're awesome. I'm awesome, because you are. And because sometimes the first week's the toughest, especially if you did the detox, right? And so congratulations to everyone who made it through their detox week. We definitely saw those results pouring in, because that's always a very good week for all of us. So for those of you who are maybe joining us, I know we have still some teams coming in and we still have time. You can get a team together. You can put a team together. You can join an existing team. Just join us. So that's all. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Melanie D. Nelson. I'm the director of TLS. I've been in the health industry for 22 years. And my passion is absolutely about helping people reach their most best selves, their most vital selves, their most energetic selves. And that's one thing I love about TLS is you're going to have a lot of energy when you're living the TLS lifestyle. And then of course with me is Suzanne, and she's our director of training, our registered dietitian. Been practicing since 2003, certified diabetes educator since 2005, and is a weekly guest on a radio show on nutrition since 2008. And she's been a part of our TLS community, well, before 2012, but became a certified trainer with us. So we're so lucky to have her. And I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about Pam as we come up here. But first, we want to say...
I'm going to say it in Chinese.
Yes.
It is actually Chinese New Year's Eve. And for those of you who are celebrating, tonight is a big feast, isn't it? I really hope it's TLS friendly. And for those who are Chinese, I'm going to say in Mandarin, just want to say Chinese New Year. So 身体健康，福重雙雙，事事如意，五福臨門。OK， 身體健康，福壽相傳，事事如意，五福臨門。Yeah, English, well, Mandarin and Cantonese right now, but just wishing everybody a happy Chinese New Year. And the most important thing is stay safe and to stay healthy. And that's the most important. And that's what TLS is all about.
Yes. And I feel really good about the year of the tiger coming up. So I think last year was the ox, wasn't it? The ox?
Yes.
And I feel like that was sort of the perfect year for the ox, because we all sort of, really pushed our way through that year, really hard work through that year. And so I feel like this year we're all ready to just, be our best, most powerful selves. And I think the year of the tiger is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for that. So before we get started into some of our content, just need to share some disclaimers. We've not been evaluated by the statements that we're sharing tonight have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. Please consult your healthcare provider before starting any weight management product or exercise program. You can expect to lose about 1 to 2 pounds per week. Keep following our program. And many of us who are sharing our stories are with our parent company, Market America. So I want to do a little shout out to all of the teams who have joined us for this TLS team tone up across the world. We've got these teams joining us, and they're, range from 2 people to 17 people. It's pretty exciting. We're really, really excited for all our teams, but we wanted to give a shout out to some of our top teams. These were the teams that submitted their measurements from this first week. So big, huge shout out to all the teams on the leaderboard here. Check this out, you guys. 436 pounds lost in total, just with the teams that reported, and 220 inches. Amazing
1 week
transformation. In 1 week, I know.
1 week.
The teams that are highlighted here are ones who averaged between either 6 to 8 pounds per person lost. So we know those teams definitely were on detox week, right? So very, very amazing. So just a huge shout out to all of our very committed teams. who decided that they were going to report in and be, 100% on board with TLS Team Tone Up. So love it, love it. Thank you guys so much for participating at 110%. All right. So for those of you who are maybe again new, we want to make sure that you're fully taking advantage of all of the aspects of this challenge. And so we're going to encourage you to track your progress, take your measurements, do your weigh-in, and then do that weekly and submit your results to your team leader or team coach so that they can submit to us and we can celebrate all of our success together. Who doesn't want to increase that 436 pounds a week? Gone, poof, forever, right? We want to see changes. Now, we know that some of you are here to gain some healthy weight, make some gains in muscle, and that's awesome. And we support that, and that's amazing. This is just about weight loss for everyone. TLS is for everyone, everybody, every goal when it comes to health, for sure. So we just encourage you to track your progress because it's inspiring, it's exciting, and it certainly helps the whole, the whole of us that are doing this together. So we do have a weekly check-in page that the link is kind of everywhere. It's really everywhere on TLS. So check out our social media pages. You can find this on our private group for Team Tone Up. That link is a couple places in that group. So Sundays are the day that you need to get those in by. All right. So let me remind you that what we're doing here is going through the free digital 12-week health guide and journal each week. So last week we covered, right, Suzanne, low glycemic impact eating, Suzanne's passion, what she's absolutely excited about in life. And so we covered that. And this week we're right into chapter 2, which is how to read labels. And that's why we have our incredible guest here tonight. This is really, really crucial and life-changing information here tonight. So buckle in, grab a pen and paper. You're gonna want to take some, I promise you. This is such great information. So if you are not familiar with the Health Guide and Journal, one thing is you're gonna want to go download it from tlsslim.com. And you just simply take the weight loss profile or the weight management profile, depending on what country you're in. And it will be there for US, Canada, UK, and Australia. It's going to be free at the bottom of the results page for you to download for free.
Yes.
So without further ado, you guys, drum roll, please. We have the most amazing, one of our most beloved TLS coaches and trainers, which I said, Pam has been around the TLS lifestyle and teaching and training it for now well over 15 years. But she started out as a college professor and in hotel and restaurant management. She owned a Sweeter Than Flowers candy bouquet store. Can you believe this? Worked for the Nabisco company, merchandising boxed processed foods. And, just with all these decades of work in the restaurant industry, she has a huge understanding of the food industry and what motivates it and how it functions. And obviously she is just a loved grandmother of 3. She has 3 children, married for 37 years, and works with health professionals all over. And she's had her own TLS success story. We're so excited to have you, Pam. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thanks for asking me, Mel and Suzanne. I'm so excited to be here. I've been around the block a few times with TLS, and I have loved what it does for people's health, not just for your waistline, but for your health. And so Melanie has shared with you, I was in the food industry from 14 years on. I started waitressing when I was 14, and I went to college and have a degree in restaurant, and I've worked in many, many restaurants. And as I began to age, I got into my 40s, and I opened a distributorship with this company called Market America, and a division of it was TLS. And this division, TLS, was such a revelation to me because as I began to get older and had spent my life eating my dessert first in the restaurant industry and eating all the restaurant food, and you could see I had a candy bouquet store, and I worked for Nabisco for quite a few years. I was eating food that I didn't know, but my body did not like it and was getting inflamed and having a hard time digesting. And see, when Ann Reedy first came and introduced me, she said, Pam, I really want to challenge your thought process about nutrition and about the food you're eating. And I said, what are you talking about? You mean food can hurt you or it can help you and heal you? You're crazy. I said, I really told her that. I said, I've been in the food industry my whole life, and it's all about people's taste buds and making them feel full and making them want to come back. Because, you know, if I can say it, I was one of maybe the bad guys, because when I taught about food, I taught how to have someone be so addicted to your food that they would keep coming back to your restaurant. Or when I worked for Nabisco, it was all about the packaging and the fact that we put enough sugar in that Oreo cookie that your kids want Oreos, not Hydrox. We wanted to be the #1 cookie seller in the world. And we made it crispy and it doesn't go bad for 2 years while it sits on the shelf, so that it, no matter if you buy it in a gas station or at a grocery store, that cookie tasted the same. And we had to use a lot of synthetic products to make that Oreo cookie taste that way. And so I want you to know, if you feel a little bit like this is tough going to change your habits, it's because every day the food industry goes to work and spends millions of dollars to study you, to know where to put those processed foods, how to make them less expensive, but more addictive, so that they make a better profit margin, because they're driven by profit. They're driven by shareholders. You know, the Nabisco company is owned by J.R. Reynolds, and you know who they are? They are the company that knew that cigarette smoking was bad for you and hid that research for years, and a huge lawsuit had to pay out millions because they hid that research. So you can bet if they own a company like Nabisco, they're not most concerned about your health. They're most concerned about profits and moving that product and making you addicted to it. So here's me. It's a little embarrassing to show these photos because, you know, this weight just crept on, and it crept on right in my belly. And when I went through the detox week, if this is you, I lost 3 inches around my waist in 7 days. I just want to alert you, if you've lost 2 or more inches right around your belly, you might want to keep in your mind, when you start adding foods back in, what makes you feel good and what makes you not feel good. Because I found the minute I tried to add gluten back in my diet, I blew up again and I had issues. You know, I had already been tested for celiac. I didn't have celiac. I just could not digest gluten very well, especially with all its additives and preservatives and all the different foods that are out there. And it looks like I'm pregnant in this picture, and I'm not, believe me. That is me when eating foods that are things that I could not digest and I was sensitive to. Okay. So after my detox week of losing 3 inches, it just kept shrinking down. And now I know that there's certain foods, which Mel and Suzanne have done such a great job of really letting dairy and gluten, which I have since found out are 2 of the most reactive foods and hard to digest. They're way out there until you get out there into these, you know, we're doing, maybe you're on detox and maybe you're doing rapid results, or maybe you're doing sure and steady or continued commitment. They're down the line in rapid results to sure and steady, or even continued commitment. And I'm really glad about that, because that's what TLS taught me, was there are certain foods that my body just didn't like. And today we're going to talk about how to find those in ingredients and how to really discern what is it that's in the food that you're eating. Can you flip for me, Mel?
I can. First, I really want to share with everyone the impact you're making, because you obviously made an impact in the restaurant industry and with Nabisco, but now that you've stopped being on the dark side and you're on the light side, you're making a massive impact, Pam. This is just some of her 70 health professionals that Pam has, is directly connected to, who that she's helping and working with to spread the amazing news of TLS, to really help transform lives. So Pam has a very large ripple effect up there in North Dakota with her community, that she's making a difference, truly. And so it's really inspiring, Pam. And having success stories like, and it's Colette, right? Colette is right there.
Yes, Colette Sabat down here at the bottom. In 2017, Colette decided, I need to do something about this. She had gone to a doctor appointment. They had told her, you really need to lose some weight. And she just had no idea what to do. And so she went through a detox, and that was the beginning of her journey. She began to exercise with her changed eating, and she has lost 100 pounds. I told Mel earlier, when she went through the TSA checkpoint at the airport, they said, this picture cannot be you. You need to take a new picture because you've lost tons of weight and you don't even look like this anymore. And so Colette has continued on the TLS journey and coached many other people. When you find something that works, how can you keep it to yourself? You want to share it with everyone, all your fluffy friends who are struggling. You want to point the direction to this really works. And we have such a great start with that detox. Some of you maybe haven't done the detox. You're maybe getting a few weeks in before you get brave enough to do it. I would encourage you to give it a try if you haven't yet. Once you kind of got your hands wrapped around the idea of eating real food, it's a great way to give yourself a refresher for the season or to get a jump start. And as you're adding foods back in, I think almost everyone in this picture, I was trying to look through every single person in this picture, has gone through TLS, and through that journey found that food does help or hurt you. And then along with that, some of the science-based supplements were so fantastic that the health professionals on this picture wanted to carry them in their practice. Many of the health professionals in my group are mental health practitioners, because when you gain weight around your waist, it actually affects your mental health. When you're carrying extra weight and eating foods that are affecting your personality, your mental health struggles. How many of you felt like that? That it's like, this is hopeless. I'm never going to be able to get better. Or your immune system was suppressed. And so that's why as many mental health, I think we have 28 mental health practitioners right now that carry our line. And just tonight, it's so funny, Melanie, my daughter just called, who's a mental health counselor. And she said, Mom, I was teaching on label reading tonight in our food for mood class. That is so fantastic, babe. I'm going to be on a webinar tonight teaching on label reading. And so we chatted about some different things. And, she's got a master's degree, and some of them have even beyond. But the curriculum that you are reading, I hope you really downloaded the book and you're reading it, is what they're teaching in their clinic to moms and dads who are trying to help their children who have behaviors to change their mood. Because we all know if you give sugar to a child first thing in the morning, it's not a good first period at school, is it? And so some of that can build up over time. And these folks that you see in this picture, I'm so proud to be affiliated with them, because they're not just keeping it to themselves, they're helping other people with the ideas that we're presenting in this label reading.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So let's talk about the first sort of general aspect of the idea of label reading.
Well, and that's where I was really at, Mel. I was like, what food can help you or hurt you? Absolutely. Everything you eat impacts your blood sugar, which means it impacts that hormone called insulin. And I like to call insulin the mother hormone, because when it regulates out, it's funny how the other hormones want to follow suit. And so it's really important that you understand how what you're eating impacts your blood sugar, and the combinations of what you're eating impact your blood sugar. So it's not just the glycemic index of that one food, which is what we're going to talk about here in label reading. When we combine foods into something else, what's happening with all the ingredients in there on the load? How does that impact the blood sugar in how long of period? I always say it's sort of like we want to throw an oak log on the fire so it burns for a long time and keeps you satiated, rather than throwing on your old Christmas tree. Have you ever thrown an old Christmas tree, Mel, and so on a fire?
Yep.
It just goes,
That's right.
so you got all this energy and you can't sit still, whether you're a kid in school or you're on a Zoom webinar, and you've just got all this energy and you can't focus, right? Or sometimes your behaviors come out, or your partner's behaviors come out. And at our house, that hangry, hungry, and angry, we know, because we all have some genetic blood sugar issues at my house, that we need to eat consistently, or there gets to be some pretty crabby folks
Yeah.
around the house.
Sure.
Yeah. I think, is this one mine? I can't read. So the
It
net
is.
carbohydrate in packaged food, because many of you out there, you're used to going through to a box that maybe at the grocery store is already prepackaged food. So it's already partially made, so it's quicker to make, or a window. And these days, many people go to a window or pick up food. And what we'd like to talk about is, how do we know the impact of that food? There's actually a formula. If you want to take a screenshot of this, if you take the total carbohydrates, which you can see are written right there, carbohydrates, 25 grams here, and you subtract the fiber, because fiber is like that oak log, it takes longer to break it down, it lowers the net carbohydrates. So you subtract that from the carbs. And then if it happens to have any sugar alcohols in there, you can subtract that too. Or if it has glycerin in it, you can subtract that too. Most foods you're going to just see carbs and fiber on, unless they're actually a protein bar or something where they're trying to lower the net carb count. An Oreo cookie has no sugar alcohols in it. So you just subtract that out of there, and you see that this food has 20 grams of protein, which is awesome, but the net carb count on this is just 3 grams. And we'd really love to see that stay beneath 10. And for a snack, we'd really love to see it below 5, if that's what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely want to see those single digits.
Yes.
So this is just a great thing to have on your phone, like screenshot the calculation on your phone. That way, when you're at the grocery store and you do happen to grab something that's boxed, canned, bagged, Tetra packed, you can, do a quick calculation and see, hey, is this, how much is this going to affect my blood sugar level? And if we stay under into the single digits, we're in safe harbor, or more of a safe harbor, right, Suzanne?
Yes, and I want to add one more thing is, a lot of time when you look at food label, another thing to keep in mind is comparison. When you compare two things are the same. So a lot of time is when you look at the total carb, like A and B could have the same total carb, but when you start subtracting them, you realize this one has a lower net carb versus this. So people are so glued to that total carb, they neglect the rest of the number. And this is why we really want you to do that calculation, because after you do the calculation, say, hey, this is 25 grams, this is 25 grams of total carb, and this is also, which one's better? Let's do the calculation. Then you realize, oh, this is a better choice because the net carb is like maybe like 3 grams here, and the net carb there is 15 grams, then this is a better choice. So we want you to actually become a very savvy consumer, like take a deeper look. Don't just look at the total carb. And when coming to comparison, it's such a great way to really know which one is a better product. Although we try to encourage you not to look at products with food label, but when you do look at it, compare by looking at the deeper, like the more detailed information is what I'm suggesting when comparing food. Okay, so Pam, you're gonna lead away talking about serving size. That's my part. Okay, so this is how I always explain to my clients when it comes to serving size. How many of us, when we look at food label, how many people ever even notice serving size? I can tell you whenever I teach on food label, and I would ask people, what's the first thing you look at? People would say calories, fat, sugar, or protein, but they never, I'm telling you, never, seldom ever mention serving size. And I said, well, if I were to give you a food that costs, say, I don't know, 110 calories. Okay, how's 110 calories? What if that 110 calories is only 1 teaspoon? Ooh. Serving size, 1 teaspoon, 110 calories, that's a lot, right? But if it's a whole cup for 110 calories, it's reasonable. That's why we need to look at serving size, because serving size tells a lot. Because a lot of times when we look at the label, we look at this, for example, this jar of peanut butter, right? When you look at that, hey, 180 calories, not that much. And they somehow might think this is a whole jar sometimes for some people, especially when you think of canned soup, they really literally think it's the whole thing, and it's not. Look at the serving size, 2 tablespoons for 180 calories. And we know we love peanut butter. We don't really go to 2 tablespoons. We really spread it thick, right? So it can be 4 tablespoons. And if it's 4 tablespoons, that is 360 calories. I know in TLS, We said not to measure, like we don't ever measure calories, but you need to look at that in perspective, because we have a lot of people say, hey, I'm eating healthy, but I'm not losing weight, because you're not looking at the serving size. So picture, like really focus on the serving size. Next thing that you really need to focus is, which go back to comparison, because I have so many people ask me, is this a good choice? I said, compared to what? Look at the serving size to see if there are apple to apple, right? If one is, say, I don't know, like I find bread is somehow can be misleading, because one of them, the serving size could be 2 slices of bread, and the other one, a serving size could be 1 slice of bread. So when you compare 2 slices to 1 slice, obviously the 1 slice is always less. But how many people only eat 1 slice of the bread? Most people at least had 2 slices of bread. So this is why the serving size is very important. So that will tell you, with if you follow in that serving size, this is the nutritional value that's provided for that serving size. So if you eat double, triple, which easily can be done when you eat like chocolate and so forth and juices, this is when you can start to, you need to know your math. Basically, that's what I'm saying, to really add up. So really pay attention to serving size. That tells you a lot more. And last but not least is, when you look at serving size, just be careful. Sometimes when you look at serving size, we all know that food industries know that you're very smart. So they want to be outsmart you. So sometimes they might make a serving size a lot smaller than it is, so that the nutritional fact looks a lot more appealing than it should be. So keep that in mind when you're looking at it. Oh, this is not too bad. And you notice the calories pop right out there at being the bigger number, and the rest was very small, because people know that we are still very focused on calories. And in TLS, we want you to focus more on the nutritional value, not on the calorie itself. Okay? That's all I really want to share. I'm not sure, Emily, do you have anything to add about serving size?
No, only that I don't know, I'm Dutch and we make cheese. And so, nobody ever has 1 slice of cheese ever, like ever in the history of growing up in my house. Did anybody ever have 1 slice of cheese? Yes. And so, when it came to, my weight loss journey, I was shocked, absolutely shocked, like laid an egg shocked that the serving size of cheese was 1 slice. And I was like, wow, no wonder I'm not moving the needle. Right. And so this was a huge piece of the puzzle for me. It wasn't so much what I was eating, although dairy, I'm like Pam, I've learned that dairy does not agree with me. Although I love dairy, it doesn't love me back. And so, it's just, we're like, recruited lovers or whatever, I don't know, but it's not a good pairing. And what's sad is that I do really enjoy good cheese, but I was really struggling with my weight and moving the needle. And for me, serving sizes across the board was a big piece of this puzzle, of just constantly eating more than the serving size.
Mel, I think people too think of cheese as being a protein. So they think of it as, this is my main meal. This cheese is my protein.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Where that serving size, we're talking about cheese being a condiment. Think of that as a condiment, to sprinkle on something. And if you really love that smoothness, try substituting an avocado on a spread instead of the cheese. Yeah. And that's going to give you a way different profile, right?
For sure. Nutritional yeast is also really kind of a nice substitute for like a Parmesan sprinkle. So there are ways through avocados and nutritional yeast to get a healthy fat with kind of that same creamy or that flavor you're looking for. Yes. And we did move dairy all the way over to continued commitment for a reason. So most of you are not on a program that has dairy. For very specific reasons that we won't get into on this particular webinar, but just know that, we're educating you for not just this week, not just for this 12-week tone challenge, but for the rest of your life, so that you guys can make these educated decisions on what's best for your body. So let's move on to sugars.
Yeah.
Sugars.
So many times, pre-TLS, I thought, well, yogurt must be a great food. Everybody talks about it being a protein, and it's got these cultures in it that are supposedly supposed to help me, probiotic type things. Well, when you really start digging into it, most yogurts out there, Mel and Suzanne, they add some fruit in there, plus that fruit is just not sweet enough, so they add actual more sugar. So this is a tiny little Yoplait cup, you know, those little teeny weeny ones. This is just 6 ounces, and it's got 19 grams of sugar. Now, some of that comes right in the milk sugars, but 13 grams of added sugars in that teeny weeny, what, like 4 spoonfuls of yogurt. I mean, we are talking, that's right up there with soda and 16 teaspoons of sugar in a can of Coke, right? And so this one next to it here, the blue one, this is, you know, the bigger container. So the size of it isn't 16 ounces, it's a cup, which would be 8 ounces. And you can see here, there's 33 grams of sugar in this very popular brand of yogurt. Now, if you go up on the top there, Mel, where you're not just looking at the Excel spreadsheet part, this is where we really want to focus when we label read, is in the ingredients. Yeah. And even though part of the label's cut off there, it's cultured milk, right? But the second ingredient in there is sugar, right? And so if you were smart enough to just disregard even the Excel spreadsheet part and just go to the ingredient label, when these are listed in the order of the amount that's actually in this product. So the second ingredient in this yogurt is sugar. This is going to be hugely high glycemic. And to prove that point, many times when I have people come to my house, I have a Snicker bar laying there. You know, you're just off a detox week and there I have a Snicker bar laying there. And I show them that this Snicker bar, regular size Snicker bar, has 27 extra grams of sugar in it. So a total carb count of 33. The net carb count, you minus the fiber, that's 32 for the net carb count there. And that is actually the same as this yogurt, right? Because there's no fiber in the yogurt. And so actually the carbohydrate count's 34, so it'd be 33. We're talking, you would be better off to eat the Snicker bar in this situation, yes, because you can't see it there, but it's got quite a bit of protein and it's got a gram of fiber. Now, we are not advocating you to eat a Snicker bar, but we want you to be smart to know that this yogurt is false advertising. And that's what I was telling you, is that the food industry is out there spending millions of dollars every day researching you to see what they can put on the label. Oh, yogurt with probiotics. And so you're going to buy it, not thinking about, this is a high glycemic food. This is going to drive my blood sugar up. This is going to make me more mucousy. This product is going to make Pam bloat as big as the moon. You know, I could gain those 3 inches back literally from taking a cup of this yogurt. So is that really healthy for you? No. And I just want to challenge you to the thought, when you take a yogurt product like this, has anybody ever made yogurt at home? You're literally taking milk and putting it at a temperature where the cultures grow. You're spoiling the milk. That's how yogurt grows. And it gets real thick and clumpy, okay? And what happens then is, if we're going to sell this in a store, they've got to actually package it by pasteurizing it and heating it up and heat sealing it. So what happens to those probiotics, do you suppose, when they heat seal it? It kills them. So there may have been good probiotics in it when they were growing the cultures, but honey, by the time it gets to you through the grocery store and home in your car to your kids, there are no live bacteria in there. I know it says that it contains active yogurt cultures, including L. acidophilus, but that was not measured after it traveled on a truck and sat out on a dock and went into a grocery store and then went into your cart. And then you forgot to take it out of the back of your car because you were running errands. And then by the time you got it to your own fridge, those probiotics are negligent. I mean, there's just nothing there. This is a sweet, candied treat. It is not helping you. And this is where I was. I'm just telling you this because this is where I was. I was thinking, oh, I'm giving up the chocolatey dessert. So for dessert, I'm going to have this yogurt, thinking that's a healthy choice, isn't it? And this girl, Ann Reedy, who out of South Dakota, she said, Pam, I'm really going to challenge you to start reading these labels and understanding this science behind the food that you've been promoting, that it's not healthy, it's actually hurting you, and it's not just your waistline that's hurting. I did not feel well. My brain was starting to be slower and more sluggish. I was more crabby. And these are the effects that when your gut is not digesting well, your brain will not be thinking well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And sugar shows up in so many foods right now. I mean, it's everywhere.
It has so many disguising names, doesn't it?
I know.
We can say,
so
oh,
tricky.
it's organic, right? It's organic. Really, we don't have to spray sugar much in North Dakota in those sugar beet fields, you know, or if it's cane sugar, it grows so quickly and so fast, and it's such a money industry, and it's easy to add to something to make someone addicted to. Now, I've worked a lot with Amen clinics, and Dr. Amen takes scans of people's brains, and this sugar really lights up those same sensors in the brain that someone who's perhaps using an illegal substance craves just the same way, because the same part of the brain lights up when you get a lot of sugar in there. So I worked with kids who have people who have preschool children. They're like, well, my child won't eat anything but macaroni and cheese. My child won't eat anything but, you know, a sweetened soda. And it's like, well, they were not born that way. You trained their tongue to go that way. And the rest of you, the same thing. So we've got to either do the detox and cut sugar out and kind of go cold turkey and rough it out for a day or two. But if you stay with us that 7 days on detox without sugar, you will not crave it after that. You'll break the back of that craving. So dextrose, high fructose corn syrup, all these intergalactic words, maltitose, sucrose, beet sugar. Beet sugar means it came from the Red River Valley in North Dakota. We're the #1 producer of that sugar there. Brown sugar, just because it's brown doesn't mean it's better.
That's right. A lot of people think brown sugar is healthier.
Yeah. You know, and it's so disguised in so many more words. But if you look at the label again and see the total sugars, and if there's no fiber to subtract from that, that carb count is very high, and it's a high glycemic food. It's going to raise your blood sugar, right? And you can see on the right side, this is pickles. Thanks, Melanie. Those pickles, you can see cucumbers are the first ingredient, but what's the second ingredient? High fructose corn syrup. The corn industry is so happy that they figured out how to concentrate corn into a very addictive, very concentrated syrup, because it's cheap, it's plentiful, it's easy to grow, and we put it in almost everything that you love and think that it's your choice that you want that food. No, it wasn't. It was us in marketing and in research and development that figured out if we raise the sugar content, your tongue and your brain would become focused and only want that food. And we would destroy your taste buds for the richness and complexness of vegetables, raw or slightly steamed. We would destroy the savory taste buds because the sweet taste buds become overactive and they rule the roost. I tell people all the time, you're being led around by your tongue. And the marketing. So you got to turn your brain back on by reading these labels and saying, yes, normally pickles would be a great option, gluten-free, vegetable, but not when the second ingredient is we've covered them in high fructose corn syrup. That's hijacking your brain, hijacking your hormones. And if you think you have enough willpower to outchoose that craving, you don't. And that's why you need some of the things that we suggested, like core and trim tea, to help bring those hormones back into line so that you can choose. And I know many of you have tried to lose weight in the past, and you've had great ability with your will to make choices, or maybe you just didn't eat at all for long periods of time. It's your hormones who are hijacking you. We've got to help them come back into line. We got to clean those taste buds off so that you have a fighting chance to use your brain to read these labels and go, this is the better choice.
Yeah, I love the label. It says on the front, just a tad sweet. And it's organic, and it's, you know, it's you know, but on the back, it's 25 grams of added sugar. That isn't a tad sweet. That's a lot sweet.
Sweet, exactly.
So,
and I want to add one more point. It's very interesting. I talk about sugar. I have so many of my clients, when they wanted to lose weight or wanted to become healthier, the first thing they said, oh, I cut out sugar in my coffee. I said, how much sugar do you put in your coffee? And most people maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons. And 1 teaspoon is 4 grams of sugar. So 2 teaspoons is maximum 8 grams of sugar. They think they did an amazing job for cutting sugar in coffee. They think, wow, I cut out 2 teaspoons of sugar. Little did they know that drinks right there, 25 grams. That is literally 6 teaspoons of sugar in there. So when you think your coffee sugar was a lot, this is a lot more, and people don't even notice it. People notice when, like, Like imagine you have your coffee and I asked you to add 6 teaspoons. You were like, what? No way. Are you crazy asking me to do 6 teaspoons? But you have no problem drinking this whole bottle, not even thinking anything because it says organic. It's like not only USDA, like it's like gluten-free, everything you want. And it's truly honest tea.
You know, Suzanne, I would tell my nieces and nephews when we go out to eat, they want to get a pop or a soda, like a Coke with their meal. And now it's just practice. They all know when they laugh at me. I take the glass of water that's sitting there and I open up 16 packets of sugar and have them dump it into the water and stir it. And I said, if you can drink this glass, I'll buy you a soda for dinner. And they get 2 sips into it and they start gagging on it. And that's why they put phosphoric acid into soda so that you don't gag on how sweet it is. But that sweetener, that's Coca-Cola's secret, you know, that's the pop industry's secret, is to have such a high rush because you can drink more sugar than you can eat. And then they cut it so that it doesn't make you gag, but it lights your brain up. Your brain is on fire asking for that again. And that's why we see people who don't just drink 1 can of soda or 2 cans of soda, they're getting the big gulp or the liter. And when you try to move away from that, there is going to be some detox effects. That's why trim tea is really good to help you come off some of those addictive type chemicals.
Definitely. So, our goal here truly is to create consumer knowledge. We're wanting you guys to move the needle in your own life. But this is also about people power, because one of the things that happened in the early 2000s was a lot of knowledge, a lot of consumer knowledge about trans fats. You guys may have remembered this being in the news and being all over the place about what kind of damage trans fats were doing. And they show up on labels as hydrogenated, hydrolyzed, or fractionated oils. But guess what? They, in 2015, the FDA heard us. And they ruled in 2015 that artificial trans fats were unsafe to eat, gave the food markets 3 years to eliminate from the supply, deadline of 2018. So this is really quite amazing. And I've had a saying in all the years that I've been doing this, the longer the shelf life of a food, the shorter ours. And that was really the point of trans fats, you guys, was to keep something good on the shelf for years, right? Like Oreos don't go bad. Some of those breads, right, didn't go bad. Some of the, chips and those types of things. Yeah, absolutely. They wouldn't go bad. Why? Because they took a perfectly good oil and they removed the hydrogen that stabilized it, because a normal oil would eventually go rancid, and so would the food then. And so that's what they did. They found a way, right? This was like the introduction of margarine, right? Do you guys all remember margarine? Right? Everybody thought it was the greatest, latest thing. And in fact, it was poison, right? So we really made some big changes here. But here's the truth of the matter. We know the food industry is in for profit, not for health, not for your well-being. And so they have still managed to somewhat hide some of those trans fats in things like creamers, bakery items, crackers and chips, and vegetable oils and margarine, which will have a certain percentage of trans fats. However, they've figured out that the new rule now is if it's 0.5 grams per serving, they don't have to put on the label that there's any trans fats. So guess what companies like Doritos and Oreos did is they reduced their serving size so they don't have to share with you that there is trans fat in their food, right? So 11 Dorito chips and we're under the 0.5 grams. Who eats 11 Dorito chips? Nobody. You eat the whole thing,
and now, right? So many times people go out to eat because then they don't have to read the label. They just think, oh, well, this sweet potato fry is going to be better than the white potato fry. But the truth is the same concept that you're talking about, making things shelf stable in a fryer in the restaurant industry, we don't want to have to change out that oil every day.
Yeah.
We really don't. The longer we can make that oil last in the fryer, the better it's going to be for us. Less hours, less product. And so the older the oil, actually, the more the trans fat that's in that oil. And so when we're talking about difference between a white potato French fry and a sweet potato French fry, so marginally different because that trans fat has soaked into it. Or anything that goes in the fryer, it's gonna have trans fats in it. It's not gonna be good for you. And I can say that personally because like I never met a fried food I didn't like when I worked in the restaurant industry. And that's part of the problem, right? Because it's got that crispy outside and the soft inside. But that kind of oil is very tough on your arteries. And I just want you to be aware of that. Even if you think, well, it's a vegetable, you know, we deep fried cauliflower. Isn't that good for you? Yeah, that's maybe a better choice, but you're still getting all those trans fats, lots of trans fats in the restaurant industry, unless you live in New York City, they don't allow them anymore, but depending upon your state, lots of trans fats out there in that fat fryer.
Yes.
For sure. And this is a label of a non-dairy creamer. And so what you can see here is total fats, 0, trans fats, 0. But take a look down at the ingredients again. This is the more important. The first ingredient is corn syrup solids. There's another sugar for you. The second one is hydrogenated vegetable oil, which could be coconut or palm or soybean. It could be any of those. So we've got a non-dairy creamer here that's made with sugar and fractionated or hydrogenated vegetable oil. And what do we got here, Pam?
I got to talk about this too, because you brought that up. You know, you think here we are with soy sauce, right? And we're talking about seasoning your food, right? And making it taste better. So you think, well, both of these are soy sauces. They should be the same, right? But when you read the label, here we've got just this vegetable protein from organic soybeans in the Bragg's. But here, this is our family brand. It's going to be a lot cheaper. And you're thinking, well, it's just soy sauce. What could be so bad about it? The second ingredient in this soy sauce is corn syrup. And there's also gluten in this soy sauce. So like for someone like me, this is going to make my tummy blow up. But they seem like they're the same thing. And that's where you have to be a smart consumer. I mean, even something as benign as a tomato and a tomato sauce. Buy this, not that. This one, when you look in that ingredient list again, right down there, it's the third ingredient. They've added sugar to the tomato so that you'll think, oh, this one tastes better when I make it in my recipe than this one does, right? And the same thing comes true. Even we've made a lot of soups. Is it cold where you are, Melanie? Things are, it's cold and the East Coast just had a big storm. Here we are with chicken stock or beef broth. This chicken stock is just straight up chicken and some seasoning. It's even cage-free chickens if you want them to be happy. But here we are, we have a beef stock that the second ingredient is caramelized sugar syrup. Caramelized sugar syrup to get the brown, right, the color, plus to get the sweet. Second ingredient in this beef stock, and then the last one, because people are always saying, well, what can I have on my shelf, Pam? Because I can't always buy everything fresh, and sometimes I didn't plan ahead, so it's good to have a few things. I like to have chicken stock, beef stock that's sugar-free. I like to have some tomatoes or marinara. This is one of my faves because, you can put marinara on almost any clean, lean protein and make something fancy. Can I just say that from the restaurant industry? So I prefer this Classico tomato basil, not any added sugars, all natural ingredients, just the tomato itself, some carrot juice, some celery seed juice in there. But this one, which is another name brand out there, again, when we look at the label, the third ingredient in there is straight up sugar. Now you're not going to see that again, in I call it the Excel spreadsheet, but if you look at the ingredient list, the third ingredient is sugar. Okay. So you really want to look at that ingredient list. And if sugar is in the top 7 ingredients, you're adding, to the glycemic load to bring whatever you put it on, it's going to have a higher impact on your blood sugar. So, trans fats, sugars, And then that dreaded MSG, I know in your book you do a great job of talking about it, but I was a college professor once, Melanie, and I know probably 90% of my students never cracked a book. They just thought we were going to spoon feed it to them auditorily. So if you're on this call and you have not downloaded that journal yet, and you have not read it, you need to get it out and get your yellow highlighter out, because there's some really good information. You might be thinking, right? You might be thinking, I'm doing a good job. I made this turkey chili and I use this diced tomato and it tastes so awesome. And you might be kicking those cravings in for sugar again, lighting that part of your brain up and hijacking yourself. An hour later, you're thinking, why am I craving chocolate chip cookies, or why am I craving ice cream with fudge on it? Normally after chili, I wouldn't crave that, but you set your brain up, you set your tongue up for that type of desire again. And we know the science that's there. It will trigger it quickly. And you're on a journey. The longer you can go, keeping that sugary taste, that high glycemic load away, you'll have a little bit more margin. But for those of you who've just started, you have very little margin right now. You need to stay really true to your convictions right now by reading the labels, staying on your program, and you will be helping yourself. You'll have more willpower. Every day that goes by, your hormones even out a little bit more. Your taste buds arise and wake up more to taste more small, nuanced flavors. And the longer you stick with this, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't just want to run to their cupboard and check everything right now.
That's right.
I know I do. I'm like, I think I should need to check everything right now. So then we're wrapping up here, you guys. Stay with us because this is life-changing information.
Yes. So a lot of people, like Pam is giving really great information, because aside from the serving size, the next thing that people should be looking at is definitely the ingredient. But people pay attention to those bolded words, those words that they know you'll love. Like when you pick up, I feel like things that they want to hide from you to make it extra small, and things that they want you to see to make it nice and big and colorful and highlighted with a star. These are the words that they know you're looking for. So they put it right there so that you can see it, right? So these are 7 food label claims that are actually meaningless. Doctor recommended. Which doctor? What doctor recommended? What is that supposed to mean? And I want to say, as much as I respect doctor and all my closest friends are doctors, they don't really know nutrition. So them recommending it, and doctor is for treatment. We're talking about food. We talk about prevention. How did doctor recommend make that food a great food? Okay, just think about it a little bit. A good source of fiber. Wow. A good source of fiber. You know what? When a company put that, it means nothing. Everything can be a good source of fiber. It didn't say how much. It's a good source of fiber, right? Like that food, a good source of protein. Like you can say that. A good source is what? So just be careful of that, because they know you want to see fiber. They know you trusted your doctor, and they know that you love your kids. When kids approve, it must taste good. And I often say, when kids think that it tastes good, it must be high in sugar. Okay. Like there's very seldom that you can find a kid that say, I hate sugar. Very seldom you find a kid that way. So when it's kids approved, ding, 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 there's sugar in there. That's why it's kids approved. Make with whole grains. That word is another word, because people know that, okay, grains are not great, but whole grain is wholesome. So Sam and Melly's always talk about eating whole food. So whole grain means good. No. Not
and they put that on the front of the box of Cheerios. Yep. And there's no way that Cheerios are made with whole grains. Yes. No way. And yes. Here, and you guys might not believe us with this, but truly the FDA is really only monitoring that ingredient section, that label that we're teaching you how to read. What's put on the front of a package is not really regulated at all. And that's why they did this report on these statements, that putting free range or farm raised or all natural made with whole grains on the front of the package, so it attracts you to it, is not monitored. It's not regulated. Companies are putting whatever they want on the front of a package.
Yeah. Exactly. And and it's very open for interpretation. What's natural? What exactly is natural, right? And I remember talking to a friend just very quickly about free range. We were just talking about eggs. And she said, well, if you have only that little spot And that chicken can run back and forth with that little, so it's still free range because the chicken still run within that spot. But when you have the whole field, it is still free range, again, subject to interpretation. I was like, that's so true, right? This can be a free range and this still be free range. It's this free range. The chicken can be roaming around in that little spot, back and forth in that same spot right there. So the bottom line is just really, I always say that things that blow up in words, don't pay attention. Things that are very small, pay attention. I think those are really good and it's easy. And if it's hard to see, maybe take a magnifying glasses or even go home and actually, nowadays with the fact that we can access information so easily, really take a look at the food label and check out that product. If you like certain brands a lot, check it out because the website do give you those information. We just never bother to really look at those information. And once you start looking at it, and next time we go shopping, it becomes easier because which one are the better choices and which one is absolutely no. And if you're on your way to a better health, these are the food that you want to avoid because it will get you back to where you are. And we want to take you away to on a completely different journey. TLS is all about helping you to eat healthier so that you have a healthy body, and ultimately you will lose weight as part of that journey. Yes.
For sure. Last but not least, I feel like this is one of the more powerful examples here for what we're talking about with TLS, isn't it, Pam?
It absolutely is, because we think a lot of times juiced must be great, right? Because there's a real trend out there. It's trendy, it's fatty to juice things. But the minute you juice something, you take the fiber away. Remember, when you talk about net carbs, you want to subtract the fiber. That's the oak log that's making things take longer to burn and raise the blood sugar. So when we juice it and we just take the fruit sugar, which is condensed then and concentrated, we're going to have more calories, more sugar, less fiber. And if you actually eat a cup of real raspberries or an actual real orange, it's going to give more satiety because it's got more fiber in it. It's going to have less sugar because you're going to eat less of it. It's not concentrated. Okay. And we want to just eat as close to the earth as possible, as close to the way God made it to grow as possible. And that's kind of my rule of thumb. If you're in doubt, get back to how it actually grew and how it actually is in its most natural state. Because the minute we start processing it, the minute we start messing with it, we're refining it down and making it easier for your body to consume it and turn it into blood sugar, right? I am going to mention this though, Mel. Somebody's asking about how to find the journal. If you want to type back to them where to find the journal, you take the quiz on tlsslim.com. But I am going to mention this, that where I live in North Dakota, not all of you live in such remote places, but flash frozen vegetables and flash frozen fruit many times is healthier here than even something that was put on a truck in California and trucked all the way to North Dakota, because by the time it got to us, that raspberry is mush and it's lost a lot of its vitamin C content. Vitamin C is extremely, it diminishes in contact with air. So like even your orange juice, if that container is open for 15 minutes or more, all the vitamin C is oxidized out to the air. There's no more vitamin C left in orange juice. And so you want to get it in the orange with the skin on, and you want it to be as compact that way as possible. But things that lose vitamin C and lose their nutrients to the air, like berries, especially strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and blueberries are highly toxic. They're sprayed with so many chemicals. You want to get a wild blueberry frozen. And that's what I tell my people in North Dakota, that flash frozen fruit, and then you can make a smoothie out of it, or use it in a recipe. That's the way to go if you're in a remote area that these things aren't in season, because flash freezing technology keeps all of that nutrient value in there and the fiber in there. And you can even do that with your spinach. If you're buying spinach and it's going bad, before it goes bad, just throw it in the freezer right in the bag. You don't have to blanch it. Just throw it in the freezer. You can't eat it fresh then, but you could take it and shatter it in a blended smoothie, right?
Yep.
So don't juice it. Blend it so it keeps the fiber in there.
Yeah,
for sure.
agreed.
I think the really powerful thing here in this image, you guys, is the net carb impact with this 1 cup of juice is 25 grams of sugar. But with one cup of raspberries, and you do your calculation like we just taught you, right? Take your carbs, minus out the fiber, you've got 7. We're in that single digits here.
Yeah.
So, people often think that juice is healthy because it came from fruit, but really, truly what we're doing is we're spiking that blood sugar level. We're creating those desire centers, are heightened. And now we're off to the races, craving stuff we don't need to be craving. And we're certainly not full because there's been no fiber put into our body. So whole food is what trumps, really the whole thing here is the whole theme of this is to really be careful of what you're putting in your body when it comes in a can, a bottle, a box, a bag, because chances are those things have a lot of stuff in them that you don't want to put in your body. And so just because it says gluten-free, just because it says this, that, or the other thing, USDA organic, doesn't mean it's healthy, doesn't mean that it's helping your body. And so we're really focused on a whole food approach, eating from the farm, eating from the garden patch, eating as close to nature as possible. That's what we're preaching. That's what we're teaching. And that's what we're living. And that's what keeps us vital longer. That's what our bodies were meant to eat. They weren't meant to eat chemically produced food in boxes. And so we wonder why we're struggling with our health and our weight. And so really the rule of thumb is to stay on the outside of the grocery store. Yeah. Right now, if you have to go on the inside of the grocery store, that's where you're going to get all the cans and the boxes and the bags and the thingies. But if you stay on the outside, guess what? You're hitting the fruit stand and the vegetables and the butcher, right? That's all on the outside of the grocery store. So do your lap around and get out. Don't even go into the aisles. So that's our goal, is to really move people towards more whole food eating. And we hope that this helped you guys with some great information, with Pam's incredible experience in the food industry, just giving you a peek into like the diabolical nature here of what's happening in our food industry. You guys, it's been awesome. I love this kind of education. I hope you guys did too. The chat was on fire. We saw a lot of things coming through. Some people are like, this is really frightening. and we don't mean to scare you, but we do kind of mean to scare you because, this is your life, right? This is your life. So one of the, I had mentioned earlier too, that the TLS journal, it's a 12-week health guide and journal, is downloadable for free on tlsslim.com. Get the link from whoever invited you here to join us. And basically when you take our weight loss profile or weight management profile, there's a link at the very bottom of the results page where you can click download now, and you get that whole 12-week book for free. It's almost 150 pages, and there's only a few pages of information in each chapter. And so we're just asking you guys to read that prior to Monday nights. Yeah. So that, because we're expanding on the information. We're not covering necessarily what was in the journal. We're actually expanding on what was in the journal. So we really want you guys to do this book read with us, okay? And that's what we're looking to do. I just want to say thank you to all of our teams who submitted results this week. I want to say thank you to everybody who joined us this week on with us and spent this hour with us learning about valuable information. So Zan, I know it's a holiday. For many, it's a holiday. It's Chinese New Year's Eve. So thank you so much for taking your time and joining us here tonight. Pam,
my pleasure.
Always learn from you and enjoy having you here, you guys. Thank you so much for everything. Suzanne and Pam. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.